This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
It is 6:03. I will now call to order the September 23rd meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted in person and simultaneously via remote participation online to the greatest extent possible. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meetings will not be restarted, and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation filed by GZHU Environmental on behalf of the Crown Meadow Corporation at Holly Circle and Crestview Drive, map 166, lots 75 through 80, 83 through 89, and map 171, lots 14-1, 14-2, 15 through 22, 25 through 29. This is Mass DEP file number 1510327. That item has already been continued to 11/18/2024. We're keeping it on the agenda just as an FYI until that date. Our next item is a public hearing for a notice of intent filed by the Berkshire Design Group on behalf of the Community Builders, Inc. for a new housing development at 385 Main Street, map 154, lot 32-1. This is Mass DEP file number 1510330. Ava, do you want to let us know where we are in terms of updates from our applicant there?
Yes, so we are still awaiting the updated stormwater plan. I received word from Jeff today that he thinks it will be coming tomorrow. He asked if the commission wanted him to give a narrative at the meeting, and I opted for waiting until the commission has had an opportunity to review the plan. And I imagine he will be presenting that at the 10/7 meeting, which is our next meeting. In the meantime, the commission at the last meeting has decided to proceed with a peer review. So the commission is moving forward in discussing what exactly they would like in that RFP for a peer reviewer. So I drafted one up based on previous examples, and there's a hard copy in the file, which should be that top one, I think. And I will go ahead and show it. That would be 93. That's 476. Or is that the solar? Remember? Oh. So you know what? I may not have a hard copy. I apologize. We'll show a digital version. That's fine.
Can you just make it a bit bigger?
Yeah. It's large enough for the commissioners to read it, for the public to read. Everyone read it.
Paragraph, first line.
Excellent. Great.
Yes.
In the first paragraph, Ava,
Yes.
I think we typically our main need for peer review is relative to the stormwaters pieces, but I think we typically include Wetlands Protection Act as part of it.
It
Do
does
you
mention
remember what
it
was done
in
for the TSD top project?
The Wetlands Protection Act was definitely mentioned in that initial paragraph. My understanding from the last commission meeting was that due to the peer review of the ANRAD,
Oh, that's right.
the commission wanted to proceed with only stormwater.
So the resource area boundaries and everything are set, but
Right.
then if there's like compliance with how the development fits relative to
Yeah.
the resource areas.
I think we should still, it would
Yeah.
it would exclude a review of the delineation, but I think we should still have it reviewed for compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay.
And the stormwater standards as they apply within the Wetlands Protection Act.
Yeah.
And that first sentence just seems a bit awkward, so it maybe needs a little rewording.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does actually say review of compliance of the stormwater system relative to the Wetlands Protection Act in that first bullet, so that's good. Looks good to me so far.
Mhm.
I think the proximity to the slopes within the site is
Oh,
likely
yeah.
a holdover that could be removed.
It's right here.
Do we think it's worth, we know that one of the big concerns at this location is the ability to infiltrate because of the soils. Do we want to specify something to indicate taking a closer look at that?
There is a section in
But
there
there
somewhere
was a
about the
bullet
soils.
earlier on the previous page, which at least addressed that by reference, but
This one right here, Hal.
that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking of.
That's what I was thinking of too.
Would the commission like a more specific bullet point addressing the challenge of infiltration?
Well, I think that's one thing. That's the soils data and whether it is sufficient relative to characterizing and documenting what's existing on site. But then the other point would be sort of the appropriateness and likelihood of success of the infiltration practices as proposed. I think. I'm not sure. There may be a better way to word that. Any thoughts, Dan?
No.
You can scroll down to the next.
Yes.
I'm thinking of the second to last bullet point, risk of failure of the stormwater management system in normal functioning and during major storm events. And I think maybe a sub bullet there of, something getting at particular attention to the likelihood of success of infiltration on the
Yeah.
site.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds fine.
And if you need help wordsmithing that, Diane, the city engineer, may have an idea of how to phrase that.
Excellent.
Any, like, how many meetings attended and, like, so I'm thinking it would be one review of the initial package and then like a re-review when comments are addressed. I think that's probably what we would ask for last time. Is that about what we have in here? In 3 meetings or 2 meetings or something?
That's a good question. I think it's just one meeting is all that's mentioned here, this third number.
Mhm.
But you're imagining for this one, two meetings, Commissioner Butcher?
Probably.
Yeah.
At least one, to present the, findings of a first review, and then once those comments are addressed, a second meeting to like say, yeah, we agree, or no, we still have something left.
Yep.
Can you go back up for a minute?
Here.
So I would just, in that paragraph that notes the order of resource area delineation, I would just very explicitly say that there is no review of the delineation is
Yeah.
requested.
Great. So there's a lot of hash marks in here.
The timeline.
Exactly. So there's a whole lot about timeline that the commission could come up with a draft timeline, assuming that I actually receive the stormwater plan tomorrow. Or the commission could wait until the October 7th meeting to set a timeline once we know we have the draft in hand, the plan in hand.
I think it would be good to get things moving, assuming that we do receive the materials tomorrow. So if those come in tomorrow, or we just assume they come in sometime this week, and we were to issue this next week and start our timeline. Any reason not to do that?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
What date does that put us at? 20,
That puts us at the 30th. There's a
30th?
Do we want to just like, it doesn't have to be at a meeting, but if we get it in between and you or I or anybody looks at it and it's like, if we see something obvious, you know, that it may not make sense to, well, I don't know. I was gonna say.
You mean if we get their materials?
Yeah, if we get.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may not make sense to start the review right away, but we're just talking about the proposal now. We're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we may as well. Yeah, we may as well just issue the RFP and get the proposals back as soon as it makes sense.
So we're able to issue it the 30th.
Yep.
I don't think people are crazy busy right now. Are you seeing people being crazy busy right now? I mean, relative to say June.
No, I guess
Do you think a 2-week turnaround is reasonable, or should we do 3?
3.
Okay, let's do a 3-week turnaround.
okay.
So wherever that puts us.
Well, we have a,
That puts us on the 21st.
And when is our meeting relative to that?
Our meeting is the 28th.
Then let's, the 21st is a Monday.
The 21st is a Monday.
Let's have them do the 24th, which would be Thursday.
Okay.
There's no reason not to give them a few extra days if the meeting's not until next week. I think, right?
unless we have a lot of time to read them. Yes, we could
Well,
read them.
that's
over that
true.
weekend.
Good call, Sarah. Okay, let's go with the 21st. Yep. And then that'll give us time, that'll give you time to get them sent out to us.
Yep.
And us time to review. We'll discuss and intend to select on the 28th.
Yep.
And then if we discuss and select on the 28th, you're probably gonna need at least a week to contract. Do you have any sense of how quickly? You probably don't know yet because it hasn't happened for you yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's November before.
We have a sense of when they actually want to start building.
I don't have a sense of them. This date.
So how long is the delineation good for in case this
3
continues?
years.
Okay, so it was 22.
22, yes.
I think they are. Yeah. Does that mean they have to be done doing the whole project by the time the 3 years is?
No, it would just mean that we need to talk to us again or
Yeah.
something.
I would say before you set the other dates,
Yeah.
confirm with probably Mike Owens how quickly we can execute the contract once we've made a selection.
Okay.
I would like to imagine that if we select on the 28th, that we could issue by the following Monday, but I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
So what that puts us at November 4th? 5th? Thought the first was a Friday, but I'm not sure.
That puts us at
Fine.
November 4th is
Yeah,
the Monday.
Okay. So let's assume we can issue by November 4th, but you're gonna confirm that.
Yep.
And then selected peer reviewer shall provide. Oh, the first one is the reviewer providing a contract.
So this date is 10/21.
No,
We
No.
select on the 28th.
that would be after we select on the 28th.
Oh, yes, when you would
There's a
like.
lot of dates in here. So if we select on the 28th, let's ask them to turn around a contract by
the end of
the
that week.
30th. Do you think you can do it in just a couple days? Probably
Depends
not.
on who it is.
9395 Northampton, Cassie gave them 3 days. She said if we decided on the 24th, the contract would be executed by the
Okay.
end of the 27th.
The city uses its own terms and conditions, or will they sign like?
I don't know. This is always Cassie's stuff. I'm not sure. Let's say let's say 10/31 there.
Okay.
The next date you'll need to confirm with
With
Mike,
Mike.
but let's say we're gonna hope we can do it on the 4th.
Okay.
And then, oh, that's fun. And we have to have funds from the applicant. Well, if you're just gonna need to talk to Mike Owens about the rest of those dates. I really
Yeah.
don't know the answers to these.
For sure.
I don't know if the funds can go in from the applicant as soon as we select, or if we have to wait until the contract's written to put the funds in from the applicant. I don't know how getting that escrow account set up works, so.
Yep.
Yeah, see what seems reasonable and then set the rest based on that, please.
Yes, we'll do.
We trust you to do that.
Great. Okay, so moving down to the proposal should include,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so let's try to guess at what that public
This
meeting date might be. So if everything is not getting set until November 4th, what are our November meeting dates?
um,
I know we've got Thanksgiving in there. Messing with things.
November 18th is our only meeting in the
And then what's December?
2nd.
the 2nd and the 16th. are the meetings in December.
Number 2 would be a day to have the,
Yeah, I think it's got to be December 2 to have the review and appear for the meeting.
Okay.
I think November 18th is going to be viable. The references, personnel, fee, review of all comments. Initial review comment letter, prepare for and attend the public meeting. That'll also be that 12/2 date. Yep. One review subsequent. We're gonna add,
An additional meeting.
yep. And we won't specify that date. It'll depend on the timeline for revisions.
And that's going here.
And I think that should do it. I wouldn't try to put a date in for that. I would just say an additional public meeting following revisions by the applicant. If they're gonna have to drive that timeline themselves. We have that thing in there about public hearing videos. There'd been a lot of discussion prior to us feeling comfortable to send things out to be reviewed last time. That's where that came from. We really won't have had much discussion prior. Do we think it's worth including that or not?
Maybe at least include the report from this engineer hired by the butter.
That's already there, yeah. Because if we're gonna issue this at the same time that we're basically gonna issue this the same time that we're getting the stormwater report. So I'm not sure that we will have discussed it much at all prior to that.
we have to say like in background or whatever, like, the city's meeting videos or minutes or
Yeah, so
available,
I guess it's fine as,
Yeah.
is.
rather than like saying you must review them.
Yep,
Just
right.
Like they're available basically.
In the Tasty Top RFP, it's explicitly listed. the
Yeah.
Stack of minutes
Right.
and videos.
And we pulled that out from this one. Okay, all right, that sounds
Yeah.
good. I'm
Okay.
satisfied. Any other thoughts, comments?
On the Tasty Top one, she kind of gives a little context and history. I don't know if that's necessary, but
Other than this context and history?
This,
there's that second paragraph that talks about subdividing it,
Which we have.
which we have, yeah. There's a little more, but maybe we don't need it. The one print.
Well, we don't know what you're looking at, Sarah, so you're gonna
I'm
have to
looking
tell
at the
us.
93 and 97 Northampton Street.
Right, but what does it have?
RFP. And it says the development's located on approximately 24 acres, existing agricultural fields, abandoned driving range, forested area, with an intermittent stream bisecting the center of the site. And then it has a site project history, but that's, maybe we don't need it because that's about the enforcement order.
Mhm.
Maybe that's plenty as is.
Would the commission prefer I describe the 10 acres in more detail?
I think it's fine because they're gonna have the NOI.
Okay.
They're gonna be looking at that at the same time that they're looking at this.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be fine. All right, so as soon as we've received the materials, you confirm the timeline for the procurement pieces with Michael, and you can go ahead and get that out.
Yes.
And you know who to send it to. I think we discussed
Yes.
the list. Okay.
The only other piece I have on 385 Main Street is the draft comprehensive permit from ZBA, which it's a little bit, I'm still wrapping my head around exactly how it occurred. So the comprehensive permit did go through ZBA, but with the caveat that the Conservation Commission will fully manage stormwater and wetlands protections, and that there will be like that the eventual decision of the Conservation Commission will return to ZBA and be like appended on.
Okay. Is there anything we need to do? We've never had this situation before.
As far as I can understand, there isn't anything needed on the
Okay.
part of the commission. When it seemed as though ZBA was going to wait to pass through the comprehensive permit, there would have been time for the Conservation Commission to offer edits to the relatively vague section of the stormwater, where they describe stormwater in the comprehensive permit. But given that it's already gone through, that's why I think this appending process is where we're at this point.
Okay.
I wouldn't know what to say about it anyway.
All right. Sounds good. So are we ready for a continuance then?
I think so.
You have a motion?
What's our next meeting date?
10/7.
That is a motion to continue to October 7th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, roll call vote. Patrick?
Aye.
August? Weeks?
Aye.
Carr?
Aye.
Motion carries. This item will be continued to 10/7 at 6 p.m. All right, our next order of business is a request for certificate of compliance for Easthampton Park Solar 1 LLC, 232 Park Street. This is Mass DEP file number 151293. Can you give us an update, Ava?
Yep, the applicant or the developer has requested a continuance into 10/7, but without a lot of promises that they may request an additional continuance after 10/7.
Okay. Can we have a motion to continue?
Motion to continue to 10/7.
Second.
All those in favor, Patrick?
Aye.
August?
Aye.
Weeks?
Aye.
Carr?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item is also continued to 10/7. All right, enforcement actions? Or was there an item you wanted to take out of order, Ava? Or was that just a general question earlier?
Yeah. I think we can proceed with the enforcement actions for
Okay.
now, and then,
All right. Which items have updates?
so B, 476 East Street, I have an update, and I would say, so that's the green folder right there. So I sent a cease and desist letter to the neighbors as discussed. That letter should be just under the plan there. It's the right one. That right there. Go ahead and pull it up.
Just out of curiosity, Ava, was this on city letterhead? Or is this the way it appeared?
That is the way it appeared.
Do you have access to the city letterhead?
I haven't used it yet, but I imagine I do have access to it.
I would probably,
Moving forward.
yeah, I would send things on that forward.
I did send it return receipt requested
Okay.
certified mail. Commission had an opportunity to read this. Should I show the photos that so the photos that I sent were this one with 472 over here.
Mhm.
And then this one on the other side, 468 over here. So I do have a couple more updates, and I would say they are relatively in process. I received an impromptu visit from the residents of 472 East Street at 4:30 today, in person here at City Hall. So it appears there is some confusion as to where the property line is and to where the historic swale that the commission has jurisdiction over is. So if you look at the map, the blue map that you have right here, I was in the process of getting to understand this site using the swale as marked on this plan and this ditch we see right here as a way of marking, as a way of sort of lining up where we were in reference to the site. The property owners of 472 East Street who came to speak with me today stated that their property line is actually more like here and runs on the other side of this lower area, which the residents of 472 East Street have claimed was a ditch dug by the DPW, and that the historic swale, as shown on this 1975 plan, had been filled in the late 90s, early 2000s. And there had been a rerouting of the water to this pathway. And so what my understanding prior to the conversation, I wouldn't say I have a clear sense yet, having not gone back out to the site, and also working with relatively limited survey boundaries. I'm not sure where the swale is, where the property lines are.
Well, regardless,
Yes,
that swale is currently jurisdictional.
right.
So if they want to claim that it belongs to them, then there's a violation on their own property, which they're going to be responsible for.
Right. So
Whether a historic swale and wetland resource area was also filled in could be a separate violation.
Right.
And for that, our best bet, what did you say this was? 76? 96?
96.
So we would have historic aerials, and you could go back and look at historic aerials to see if there's evidence that it shifted over.
Right.
That would be a whole separate issue.
Right.
But this is the extant jurisdictional area that cannot be filled.
Right.
That is like full stop. I don't care who it belongs to. Whoever's putting material in it is causing a violation.
Right. And so the property owners, just so the commission has all the information that I received today, claimed that this area was dug sometime in the last couple years by the DPW to clear up an ice jam at the site of the drain. So that this had been a slope, and that the indented period piece here, the swale, had been dug.
Was this, we had the 2022 picture.
They claim it was prior to 2022.
I have a deja vu looking at this. Like, I know we've been talking about this site for quite a while, this enforcement action, but now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, man, did we Was there something that we went out here for like before this cropped up?
In 2013,
This is the soil in question.
Yeah. Yep. So what they're saying is that the swale is actually like over here somewhere.
yes.
Yeah, did you say 2013?
Yeah, so I haven't,
Sounds right.
right.
So,
This is why I feel this is a bit here in the middle of this, and I don't have a clear,
Mhm.
don't have clear information to present to the commission. I did see there was some form of enforcement action in 2013,
Mhm.
some kind of conversation. I haven't reviewed those files extensively to be able to report back on it.
honestly, I didn't realize that that was the same spot as this spot.
Right.
Did
I
they
don't
say
think-
they would stop mowing and dumping?
No,
No, because they don't think that it's jurisdictional. for
they
some
don't
reason.
exactly. They
But
don't-
everything that we have seen in the field says that it is. So the cease and desist stands.
Yep.
If it is on their property, it is now their problem more than it was before. I would talk to Greg Nuttleman to ask him if there was work done there. I can't really imagine it because to our knowledge, there's no right of way.
Right.
Into the property there. So I can't really imagine that they would have dug a swale all the way back there
Right.
unsolicited without having a right of way.
Right.
So that seems highly unlikely.
Could've just asked, yeah. Sure.
Well, maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know. And depending on when it was done, how long has Greg been DPW director now? Long enough, I think, if it was the last few years that you would know.
I did ask if they had any communication from the DPW describing this
Mhm.
this digging that they are describing that occurred, and they did not have any communication. They said the one property line pin that remains is the one that's at the corner. It looks like it's almost, right on the edge of the swale there.
Well,
Precisely.
property boundary dispute is not our issue. That's between the
Right.
neighbors.
Except it determines who owns the.
Yes, but right now they're saying they want to claim it. So
Yeah, we already kind of.
that's a strange situation.
Yeah.
We know there's a violation.
Yes, and they believe it's not jurisdictional. But if a swale was rerouted,
If it is the hydrologic connection, then it is jurisdictional.
Right.
Yeah.
In your letter that you sent, did it
Yes.
say whoever is dumping it has to remove the grass clippings from
No.
the soil?
just that they must stop.
Says to all neighbors and owners of this one.
To stop, do we want them to remove those clippings that were dumped?
Ultimately, there needs to be a restoration, which we had a plan, and this is getting in the way of that plan.
Yes.
So step one is this, but the only person who's responsible for doing the restoration is the property owner. So now we don't know who the property owner is because two people are claiming it's their property. I would start with looking at historic aerials.
Yep.
See if you can find any evidence of things moving.
Yep.
If you don't have access to good ones, let me know or reach out to Mark Stinson. He loves researching historic aerials to see where people have filled wetlands.
Yep.
I think it's one of his favorite pastimes.
Great.
See what you can find out from Greg.
Yep.
The original property all owned in 476 and then they subdivided them off.
That did happen. I don't know when.
And if you hear from them again or otherwise have a way to contact them.
Yep.
Just remind them that as it stands, it is jurisdictional in the eyes of the commission.
I will let them know that. I'm going out to see the property, the single pin that they have, to have a sense of where that actually is.
Okay.
And I will take more photos at that visit.
Sounds good.
Someone do a property survey through an enforcement order.
Hopefully it comes to that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have to report on 476. The next enforcement action I have a report on is Loudville. At the commission's request, I went out to the site. I figured the commission may could appreciate looking at the images of the site. So the basin is clear of water. Here it is. Oh, not here it is.
Which direction are we looking?
We are looking, like the back, you come in, so there's the rotary, right? The little rotary, and you walk from kind of if you're driving, you park on the right side of the rotary, you walk behind that unit, and I'm looking sort of out. The
So
resource
houses are
area
at your back.
there, yeah, the houses are kind of at my back and my left. The resource
slope
area,
is that way.
yeah,
Okay.
the resource area is out in this direction. Can
And
you see
then
my
one
mouse?
also this direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of freshly planted grass seed all along the edge of the basin.
And what's planted in the bottoms of the basin? Did it look like it was
No,
planted?
it didn't look like it was planted.
So it's meant to be complete or does not meant to be complete?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know what the status of this basin is.
Okay, because it does need to be seeded at some point.
Does look moist, which is kind of surprising given how dry
Yeah.
it's been. Yeah.
Except
But
also not that surprising, given that we know there's wetlands immediately adjacent on this side,
true.
so groundwater can't be far.
What is that pipe going, not the pipe, but the tube going into it? It's wet on the other side of the basin too. Like, it looks like they've been watering or something and draining. Maybe they're just watering the grass.
They're certainly watering the grass seed surrounding the
I
basin.
wonder if that tube is draining that water down to the basement. That's why.
I'm not sure.
And all of that stone around the edges? I don't remember that from the plans. Can we pull up the plans?
It was just the base.
It should all be vegetated, I believe.
That stone in the center.
Yeah, that's like a check dam to separate, like, they form a on our side and then the other end on the other side. And that black line was probably what, like,
Is that the,
church drain or something.
is that what leads to the pipe that goes out? No, that's set higher at an overflow level, right? The one that goes out at an oblique angle.
Yeah. I don't remember it well enough. But that's-
I don't remember there being a trench drain in the bottom of this thing.
Can you make that one bigger?
Yeah, hold on, I apologize. This one right here.
Does it look like, looks like a sewer drain? The square at the very end before the back.
This one over here.
Yeah.
It does look like a great.
I think I remember that. It being like an kind of like a catch basin with an infiltrating bottom built in there, but even with the drawings.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the plans right now. I'm sorry, I didn't have them ready to go. But there's a revised one, correct?
Yeah.
Let me look for that.
It was not that old. That was springtime this year. All blending together now.
Spring or even summer.
Mhm.
It was got approved. Because we were out there, change requests.
This is the main basin redesign.
Great, that sounds like promising.
Just looking for the actual plan.
So the inside of the basin has to be seeded.
The
And
whole
then,
basin should be seeded. I don't know what all this stone is about.
right, because when the stone is eventually moved down,
Maybe some spots. But gross moss means eventually. Particularly creeper and poison ivy and sumac and knotweed.
Did they submit? They submitted a revised plan in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a couple meetings. They came and talked about like doing some changes, and I think they wanted to expand the basin, like bring the bottom up slightly and expand it, if I remember correctly, into an area where there was sandier soils and lower groundwater.
Right.
If I can figure out approximately, we did a site visit.
Yep.
And
Because it was like.
this basin isn't anywhere near where you did the step down with the plants.
It's immediately next to it, yes.
It is.
Okay, here we go. I apologize.
well, we need to apologize.
So
Yeah, March 30th is when we decided.
this is the revised
Hmm.
plan.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. All right, so there are two, what's it say about those two basins? Raised structure inlet grates.
Those are,
Inlet grates.
so I imagine are the grates. Using
Say inlet grates at the bottom of the basin.
They describe the bottom of the basin to remain exposed native sandy material to promote infiltration.
You go to the detail sheets.
Over here,
If it's in here.
not the ones on the sides here. Commissioner Butcher,
Wait, what's on the top and the right?
this one right here.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
So it's like the outlet somewhere.
Yeah, section AA, can you zoom out again?
It was right below that. That's right behind you. I think there's another kind of a structure that's in the bottom. Might not be in this revised sheet because it wasn't revised, but it
Because
might
it's
be
in
in
the
the,
original.
might be in that original one.
The commission would like me to pull that
Yeah,
up.
can we
Yeah.
pull up in the original plans?
Yep. We're looking for a detail, correct, on
Yeah.
a specific.
Should be close to the end.
So on the previous sheet, what was, yeah,
Which one are you looking at?
I think,
Maybe bottom left. Starter. Maybe bottom right, so.
Yeah.
Can you blow that up? Yeah, so the slopes should very clearly be loam and seed. I don't know where the rock is coming from. We can check on the new one, but I didn't see a call out saying that was converting to rock. I don't think we would have approved that. And then can you jump over to the bottom right? Yep. So this is that perforated pipe, presumably.
Yeah, just above this, there's that,
Oh, yeah, there you
there's
go.
a dry well.
Jason casting or animal casting.
Yeah, so I guess that's the structure too, that's at the bottom, that and the pipe.
Okay.
It sounds like on that revised sheet that we did, I guess, approve a bottom being left not vegetated perhaps. Although, maybe we should take a closer look at that, but
This is, we're back in the revised one right here.
yeah. So this one said like that it should be vegetated, but that other one,
Seeing a description.
We are not seeing the revised one.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you. Here we are.
Yeah, there's nothing indicating a change to the sides. So the stone was never approved.
set right on the top, there's like a collet that goes up off the top of the page and kind of goes down to that side slope. Oh, no, never mind, that's the outlet structure. Okay. Never mind.
I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out so you can see the whole thing.
Yes, I would say the side slopes definitely need to be loaned and seed, and there's a note on there that the bottom was to remain native to any material, but standpoint.
Such fun in there when I was a kid. Oh my gosh, the biggest sandbox.
I mean, it did say riprap, but it didn't say the small stones
For the,
all
Riprap
around.
refers to
Yeah.
that
So weird.
barrier.
It's the
you know,
only
going
Yeah.
across.
That's what it said on there, but yeah.
all right, well, I guess we'll have to ask what's up with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So I'll contact Carlos Gonzalez and let him know that the stones are not in the approved revision of the plan, and that the commission expects prior to a request for a certificate of compliance that the sides will be loamed and seeded as shown in the original plan.
Does the stone have to be removed?
Presumably, it would be hard to load in a seated.
Well, I mean, you have to be specific.
my inclination is to ask, like, what's up with the stone? The commission
Yeah,
would
sure.
that.
Just start there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
This is,
Let's see what they say.
all right, that sounds
Okay.
good.
Can you go back to the picture for a minute? Because it wasn't evident that that new bump out is there, but presumably it is just hard to see. I guess that's that little nub. Okay, I kind of see it.
This piece over here, is that?
No, at the far, at the back.
Our end.
And it's just the same area that the new neighbors are saying they're concerned about the slope? Or is that a different?
They say they
Piece.
also raise
No.
concern that the new portion of this basin is not properly being protected from sediment.
Which I imagine is this section over here.
The new portion of the basin would be the far back right.
The far back right over here. Which is kind of where I'm standing in this image. I can get some more images of that section of the basin. Like, I don't think I have an image that really shows that quite well.
Did you take a look at whether, does the material seem to be the same throughout, and was it sandy? I mean, this front wet stuff does not look particularly, it kind of looks silty, but it's very hard to tell that in a picture like this.
It does look like,
That looks like potentially deposition of material.
yeah, muddy.
And one of the questions about this leaving the bottom there is going to be, how will you tell the difference of where to remove accumulated material if it's not laying on top of vegetation to get back to the design elevation? That's going to be a perpetual maintenance problem.
Don't worry, it's gonna be lying on top of vegetation.
Well, yeah,
Or if you want.
except that there's no topsoil, so it's going to be really weird vegetation.
Better have those mineral soil.
Let's see what they have to say.
Okay.
Little blue stem.
And I can speak to the fact that the commission's recommendation perhaps would be to exceed the whole thing. Is that true?
I want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And is that the outlet, that sort of hole in the center?
This one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other enforcement updates?
No other enforcement updates.
Okay.
This might be a logical moment to take 8L out of order, Beacon Solar, as we have Pete Warren from Beacon Solar here to speak to that. If this is a good time for you, Pete. Pete, you can unmute or send a chat if you are unable to.
Do we continue in order for the moment then?
I think that sounds good.
Okay. Any open space updates?
Yes. You can start with Echodale. So quite a bit of movement on Echodale. I drafted a decision to end the contract with LSI. I will go ahead and project that. Spoke with the procurement officer, has taken a look at it. He says it is good by his form, but I, of course, looking for edits from the commission.
Seems fine to me.
Great. Yep. And I selected that 9 business days so that at the next Conservation Commission meeting, if the commission would like to proceed with another applicant or with another proposal, that they can. Great. Okay. So that's the first piece. The second piece is I also spoke with Mike Owens, who confirmed that if we are not paying more than $10,000 in one fiscal year, we do not need to get 3 written quotes.
Okay.
And can proceed directly with an herbicide invasives management applicator of the commission's choosing.
Okay.
So I reached out to Matt Burson, who the commission met at a meeting several meetings ago around River Valley Co-op and invasives management in their stormwater basins. And Matt Burson and I walked the property last Thursday. And it's have the commissioners been to this property?
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. Cool. It's a really beautiful property. I guess I will just say that. And it's quite high with herbaceous material right now, like head high. And so we had quite a time traversing through it. Things we noticed, there was the abandoned orchard was producing a lot of fruit, the trees that remained after the trees that had been removed in a previous cycle. And the meadow was filled with a lot of silky dogwood, native silky dogwood shrubs, pretty high. That was the main woody material. The invasives that we located were honeysuckle, multiflora, bittersweet, glossy buckthorn, and reed canary grass.
Okay.
Also quite a bit of rubus, blackberry, which Matt Burson spoke to the complicated nature of its invasive versus non-invasive properties. And then in terms of native species, there was a lot out there, but a lot of jewelweed and goldenrod, asters, terra thumb, Concord grapes, turtlehead, and a lot of poison ivy. So Matt Burson spoke about sort of his initial, he was seeing the property for the first time and speaking about what he saw. The commission, he wanted to know where the commission was at for the long-term vision of this project, which perhaps we could have some of that conversation now. He suggested mowing every 2 to 3 years, as sort of in like, keeping it in like an overgrown meadow kind of format. He thought would maintain the ecological function of it well, but with targeted invasive treatments for the next 3 to 5 years, interspersed with mowing. The invasives management he described, and he gave me some ballpark numbers just while we were out in the field, would be a cut and dab on the larger invasive, so the larger buckthorn, honeysuckle, and bittersweet. This November, he thinks he could fit it into a schedule with a full year treatment in June of next year, with ideally a mowing occurring ideally early next season, provided it's dry enough. And he spoke about the desire for the commission to be in communication with Park Hill and the Easthampton Community Garden around, because they're the neighbors of this property and invasive treatment's going to be occurring.
Community garden is the commission.
Oh,
They're
great.
responsible for that and doing nothing to manage it. But
Excellent.
there is a garden committee that used to be a subcommittee of the Conservation
Oh, okay.
Commission, which we actually haven't heard anything from quite a long time.
I don't think I realized that was a
Yes.
subcommittee of the commission.
That's
Okay.
That's how it was set up, and as far as we know, that it hasn't changed.
Okay.
Yep.
And the adjacent orchard, I'm gonna forget his name right now.
Russell Brand.
Yeah. We've been in contact with him all along. That was
Right.
part of the impetus for removing some of the older diseased trees because he
Right.
was concerned. Jay knows him well, and they've coordinated between the two of them for the mowing and things in the past.
Excellent.
So I'm sure he'll be pleased to hear that we're trying to get back on schedule with this.
Yeah,
Excellent.
he's been honest to do something, Russell, to like maintain this parcel.
Yeah.
And kind of do this work.
Is this the property where we have an updated design concept from
We do.
Creatives, right?
Yes.
So that That's something that you could share
Yes, Matt Verson
in terms of
has
he
it.
has that. Okay.
Yep.
Great. And yeah, so that it's been a while since I've looked at that, but I believe the intent still is to establish kind of a loop trail through the property and have some public access.
Yes, that connects both the orchard and the community garden.
Right.
So that was definitely the proposal in the Conway School.
Mhm.
And by my sense of the property, that seems to make sense as a good use of it. It's in such a beautiful spot.
Mhm.
And it's such a beautiful parcel.
Yeah.
So,
And we have put off making any final decisions about what that trail looks like or what next steps are for getting that established because we were trying to get the invasives dealt with first, and that has been hung up waiting for land stewardship Inc. to actually do what they were contracted to do. So this would allow us to move forward and make some headway there.
So
oh,
it says in there, Matt suggests mowing every 2 to 3 years. But hasn't Jay been mowing like every 2 to 3 times this summer?
So my understanding from the communications going back in Cassie's inboxes, and I may have missed something, right? Because there was some communication that wasn't done by email in those threads, is that Jay hasn't mowed it since late last season was the last mow. There has not been a mow yet this season, and that's certainly what it looks like in the field.
Yeah, the mowing had been, well, there were multiple times the mowing had to be canceled because it was too wet to do.
Yeah.
But then the idea was the mowing was supposed to be coordinated with the invasives treatment so that we were not cutting back the vegetation at the time when they needed it to be there so they could treat it, and cutting it back when they wanted us to cut it back. And so that whole plan and schedule was meant to be centered around the invasives,
Right.
herbicide treatment.
And does Jay have a mower that can handle, like, does he have like a pretty heavy duty mower that can handle the kind of material out there?
I think on some occasions Russell brush hogged it for us.
Okay.
I don't know what happened did Jay actually mow it himself, or was he just coordinating with somebody who mowed it, i.e. Russell?
That's a great question. He was coordinating with Russell at one point, but
Yeah.
I thought he was doing it
He
himself.
probably does because it's Jay,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
A lot of toys.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
You could check with him.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll check in with Jay
Yep.
around the mowing, because that was certainly Matt Verson, does not intend to include mowing as part of
Yeah,
his
no,
proposal.
we can handle that. It just needs coordination.
Yeah, and Matt spoke about a mode corridor, either cutting through a portion of the site or around the backside of the site for easier access to
Mhm.
various parts of the site. I would say we spent some good time on this property, just making our way through.
Yeah, and I think that was the other reason that Jay was trying to get in there to mow, was so that, I know that was a thing before the pruning, so that they could even get to the trees.
Right. And the tree removal at this point is complete.
Yes, I believe so.
That's my understanding
Yeah.
from the communications.
So is Matt able to go ahead and provide a proposal?
Yes, I wanted to take get the commission's sense on this before I requested he write one, but I can ask Matt for a proposal. Would the commission like a proposal just for the invasives treatment in November of this year and then again in June of next year? Or is the commission looking for the 3 to 5 year proposal?
You know how much money we have available that's left?
Yeah, just shy of $9,000.
Okay.
And the ballpark numbers he gave were for the treatment, like the cut and dabs on the larger invasives. This November was $2,000 to $2,500, with the larger foliar treatment more in the $3,000 to $4,000 range.
So we'll get like one treatment in and have a little bit left over.
Yes,
It'll be two treatments, right?
Well, one,
November, June.
right.
November,
Yeah.
and then a
One
little
cycle.
left.
Yeah.
Right.
Why don't you ask him to give us a proposal for those 2 treatments, and then also outline what he would expect for follow-up beyond that,
Yep.
but just as recommendations so that we can be planning for additional funds.
Yep. And the commission can CPA. I'm not sure exactly how I do that yet. To request more funds.
Mhm. We usually look to Jay to tell us how to do that.
Great.
Yeah.
Actually, is there a need to loop in? It's great to know that there's so much communication already with Park Hill. Is it time to loop them in now with Matt, or should we wait, get a proposal and then send it off to Matt to Park Hill and say, this is what our plan is for November?
I would say let's get the proposal, get everything squared away, and then we can consult Jay on that because he is usually the point of contact.
Excellent. Great.
That's great. Thank you for getting that moving again. That's good progress.
Absolutely.
Wait, why?
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, one other note I will say, we did make it to the end of the orchard, right? Which is that sort of the end of the initial proposed limit of work with LSI. And the Conway School design only extends out to the edge of the orchard. There's a pretty clear line where the orchard turns into forest.
Mhm.
We did go back into that forest a little bit, and the forest does have considerable invasive pressure. There's a lot of bittersweet crawling as the ground cover back there. So that is something that the commission should be aware of. And the commission's the property, the overall 25-acre parcel extends deep into the forest.
Yeah.
So that is just something to keep in mind.
Okay.
That's all I have on Echo Dale. I will send the letter to LSI tomorrow
Perfect.
and proceed from there and write to Matt as well. Great. Oh yeah. I'm moving this to 385. Yeah. Okay. Next is 385, the CR, and we received a draft of the MOA with Mass Audubon that Nicole of Mass Audubon wrote. Get bigger.
What are the highlights?
The highlights. Yep. Okay. So the main things that, and I had a meeting with Mass Audubon prior to this. So the main pieces that are in this MOA are that the annual monitoring is to be covered by Mass Audubon, but with invitations sent to the commission prior to. Included in that is the baseline documentation site visit, which will likely be coming this November.
Okay.
So we will be invited to that at that time. That there will be a notification process that involves the Conservation Commission being notified whenever Kestrel, the property owner, has to notify Mass Audubon. So anything written in the CR that says you have to notify the holder of the conservation restriction, Conservation Commission will also be immediately notified with a 30-day comment period. And then that Conservation Commission will maintain enforcement rights, but with Mass Audubon being the primary enforcer as well.
Okay.
And general language about, as there's communications between Mass Audubon and Kestrel about changes to the property, whether or not there are changes that are required to go through sort of a formal notification process, as written in the CR, that the Conservation Commission will be notified of any sort of discussion or changes. So
And that all sounds consistent with what we had previously discussed, correct?
that is my understanding.
Are the next steps here just that we're asked to review and comment? Are they looking for signature at this point?
I think they are just looking for review and comment.
Okay.
We are still waiting on a sense of the closing date for the property itself in which the CR will go into effect. But as it does, the baseline documentation site visit will be done prior to closing. So it's good to have this like ready to go as the standard.
And is there a timeline for when they'd like comments?
I didn't receive a specific timeline.
Okay.
I think the commission's discretion on this. I don't think there's a real rush. The sense I have is like towards the end of the calendar year is the closing timeline.
Okay. Have you read through everything yet?
I have, yeah.
Any concerns?
Not specifically. It looked really quite in alignment with the conversation that I had had with them. I was picking up, I'm picking up on, there were conversations that the commission had about this that I wasn't present for. So I'm not entirely sure. I think my more concern was that it could be out of alignment with what the commission is looking for more than it's out of alignment with the conversation I had.
Okay.
That's a lot of all.
Yep. I was not here for that conversation. Do those who were want to review and make sure that nothing jumps out to you?
I think we should probably, anybody that wants to look through it should look through it and more comments back.
Okay.
Yep. Like,
Yeah.
that was just an informal conversation. We didn't I don't think we did a motion.
Okay. So let's have everybody take a look at it before the next meeting on 10/7. And we can let Ava know if there's anything that we think needs addressing.
I just have a question, Eva, on the ongoing project updates under this, under Roman numeral 2.
Yes.
There's this whole paragraph where grantee's approval is required, secondary grantee, primary grantee. Did you highlight that for a reason?
That's the paragraph that I think will likely be, so this is the MOA, right? This is the paragraph that's going to make it into the CR. Is my understanding is it's already in this draft CR, which it's the paragraph. I think the CR will reference the MOA that the Conservation Commission will eventually sign, but this is a particular piece of the MOA regarding this like 30-day comment period that will be enumerated in the CR.
And did you pull it out for any, quote it for any particular concern? Or?
No, I didn't. I was just pulling it out as this is likely to be in the conservation restriction.
Okay. And that's out of bond would be the primary grantee and the city would be the secondary grantee.
Precisely, yeah.
Does the MOA get recorded?
My understanding as of now is yes, but there's still some.
Yeah, there was a note in here about the registry, right?
Yep, there was. I think Nicole wasn't actually sure.
To be signed by all parties and recorded in the Hampshire Registry of Deeds.
Yeah. It'd be better if it were recorded so that it could be findable.
That's what I imagined. Yep. I guess this piece too, the recording fee is to be split evenly by each party.
I think the recording fee is all of like $75. So okay.
Great.
All right, sounds good. Let's look at next time.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the conservation restriction and the work that's going to be done, will there be a discussion about the impact that the work is having on the conservation area? Because I don't know that we've talked about that yet.
In the sense of during active construction?
And also setting up like the parking area of the conservation area and the boundary line to the other properties and how those are impacted.
I believe all of that is incorporated into the project work for 385. I know the parking area and things are within that parcel. So that would all be reviewed and covered under the hearings for that property. But it wouldn't come into play for the CR, I don't think.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So the parking and access is over the front over the parcel where the development is, but then there's a second parcel with the CR on it. So I guess there needs to be a confirmation that there's a certain legal,
Yeah.
you know, like we're not landlocking a parcel.
It's just interesting the discussions that have happened here, that the developer has provided information to you guys is often different than the information they're providing to the ZBA. And so I'm just wondering at what point they'll have to reconcile that.
Potentially never, because they're two separate permits. I mean, to be quite frank, we don't know all of the information that was presented to ZBA. So if there are particular things during that hearing, and I should say like that hearing is closed at the moment, so we can't get into details. But if there are particular things that you think are relevant to our jurisdiction that were brought up there that aren't being discussed here otherwise, please let us know.
Well, but just for instance, they discussed,
I do need to ask that we put that off though until the hearing is reopened at 10/7.
fair enough. Just, that's very helpful.
And feel free to submit them as written comments if you would
Okay.
like to, or you can speak yourself at the consent, for sure.
That's awesome.
Thank you for understanding.
Yeah.
Okay. It would be good though to ask of Kestrel and Mass Audubon what assurances they have relative to access.
Yep.
Through the other parcel.
Who's-
That should be
Do we have
somehow clarified with the CR, I would think.
Okay.
Do we have the drawings here? We could just like look at where access is over the other parcel and just, and I guess also confirmation as to who's responsible for the movements. So we're probably going like off the bounds of this already a little bit, but there's the instance.
Trails.
This is where the parking is proposed, and this is the access walk back to the property, I believe. I don't actually know where it ties into the trail network.
Is
It's not clear.
is the parcel where that old like cul-de-sac was proposed, is that staying a separate parcel?
I think the new, one of these shows the new parcel. This is the proposed property boundary.
I see.
Great.
It looks like it keeps that parcel for the proposed property line, it ends like that.
Oh, sorry.
I guess, yeah, so the question is, what or if the ownership of this goes along with that, and who's responsible for the maintenance and the access and the trails and stuff?
My understanding though was that the new project is only proposed on one parcel. I don't know. That's a good question that, I think it would be good to start with Kestrel and Mass Audubon to
Yeah.
understand how that access
How the access is planned.
from Route 10 is going to be maintained legally.
Okay.
Yep. Where's that? What is that front line for the cul-de-sac on this drawing here?
This cul-de-sac right here.
It's that dashed line. No, the
Oh,
Baker
right.
Street.
Oh, this one
Yeah,
right
the
here.
Baker Street. Yeah.
Yes.
Better word. So that property line comes down. And then it kind of gets buried underneath the access and all that sort of stuff.
But I think the property line like follows, it comes right down here.
Yeah, so I guess we should ask Castrol, and next time we have Berkshire Design here, we can just ask about what their view is of ownership of that paper street parcel and who's responsible for what and how it's all gonna get worked out.
My understanding is that that the three parcels are gonna be combined and then re-split.
That's not really what that other sheet showed.
Yeah, let's start with understanding
Yeah.
from
them.
Castrol what they're including in their CR in terms
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
parcels.
so this sheet shows a proposed property line that ends at that paper street,
Oh, I see.
and that paper street line then goes, and that looks like that's where the trail access is and the parking for the trail, but it's also where like the driveway for the development ends up, and it looks like there's just a mixing of things.
Okay. So I'll follow up with Kestrel and Mass Audubon and take a closer look in the CR to see how they're planning on maintaining road access.
Right.
Or not even necessarily road access, but just, well, access to Route 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
Who's gonna
access to
be-
the road.
Picking up who's gonna be picking up the Colonel Bar wrappers on the parking lot? Yes. It'll be us.
Yes.
Yes.
Enforcement we're monitoring. Only ad hoc. All right, compliance updates. Which ones do we have updates for?
Okay, I have. I guess I just have a note on 108 Oliver Street. Commissioner Weeks and I are heading out to the site tomorrow morning at 9. The property owner came in to wrote to request a site visit, hoping to move towards closing out the project.
Okay.
So Hal and I are, Commissioner Weeks and I are going to see where the project stands tomorrow morning. Moving down.
I forget, is there a stormwater system on that parcel? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I have not reviewed it.
I don't think there
I
was
think
either.
that was just a crossing. I don't think there was
Yeah.
anything more to it.
Okay.
It was replication.
There was a
Was-
replication area, I
Yes.
think, yeah. Yep. Okay. So that's something to take a look at, is if there's still reporting due for another year. I kind of feel like we may have closed that out because it's been. I'm not sure. I think the replication area got done early. We may be through the 2 years of reporting, but that would be a reason why they couldn't close out yet if there's still another year or more on that.
We did an extension.
Yeah. We did. So I kind of think we may be far enough out that the replication is already squared away. Conflating it with a different site.
Okay, the next one chronologically is L, which is Beacon Solar. So let us see if Pete Warren, are you able to unmute yourself and speak to the commission?
Yes,
All right, here we are.
how's
Oh,
everyone doing?
apologies, Pete.
I said, how's everyone doing?
Yeah,
Fantastic. How are you?
So I'll just provide a little bit of framing just to remind the commission where we were at with this property. We, at the last commission meeting, reviewed some of the silt fencing and the violations of the silt fencing, and the commission decided that it was a good opportunity to contact Pete and discuss the usage of the road. So I will state that I got in contact with Pete, and he described the road usage to me as, and he perhaps will discuss this further, but is consisting of pickup trucks, sometimes hauling trailers, like trailers that would have a skid steer on the back of them, out to Array 4, which is the only array that still has any kind of active work occurring on it. And that active work is not mechanical, but rather the reseeding of that area, regrading, I think.
It's regrading.
Yep. Another thing that we discussed before we talk more about that is the resource area that we saw near the visible erosion by previous photo 10. So I returned to that resource area and went down into the resource area, and I have images if the commission would like to see them. I didn't see any evidence of sediment travel to the resource area. So the resource area appeared to be fully intact, and the sediment, the erosion that was shown in those images appeared to be a buffer zone impact. Okay. Yeah, so that's the framing I guess I would like to offer. And then why don't you speak to what you're requesting from the commission, and then the commission can discuss from there.
Yeah, so the remediation work that we were doing in that back array to try to channel the flow of the water that was coming into the site from outside of it has been complete. There are a few, it's about 6 rows worth of work that we had to do for the regrading. That work is getting seeded this week. So I would expect it's going to be, well, if we have some rain here the next few weeks, unlike the past few weeks, we should be seeing some pretty decent, some growth through there. The rest of the site is fully stabilized. The area that Eva was referencing through in between the two sites is it has easement. I think, I don't know if we've had this conversation with the I believe we have with the group here, but there has been some ongoing issues with the property owners and friends of the property owners that come into that area to hunt and do whatever it is they do. But they're coming through that area in between the sites and running over the silt fence. It's been an ongoing issue since we started the project. The property owners have been notified. The project owners have been notified. The police have been notified and involved to some degree. So we have had some difficulty keeping those in place in between the two sites. But I think Eva can attest, as she just said, the site is very stable. We have 100% grass on everything except the work that we just did over the past several weeks here. So I guess the first question would be if we can, what we need to do to start to try to file for the notice of termination as work's been complete. The only work or the only travel that will be going between these sites would be, at this point going forward, would be pickup trucks from maintenance, from the ownership in their maintenance vehicles. And I don't know how many, it probably happens maybe 2 times a year where they bring in a mowing crew and they mow the whole site. So that's the only traffic that we're going to have through the site other than pickup trucks going back and forth. So I guess the first question would be, can we remove the silt fence in between the two sites? And then the second question would be, what would be the process? And I apologize for my own, I haven't had time to really dig into what is required for the completion of the notice of termination. I typically don't work in the project management field, which is who usually handles this sort of these particulars. But I'm happy to do whatever we need to do to try to get this thing move forward for the closeout. So
Great. So Ava can help you to understand the process for filing for a certificate of completion.
Mhm.
That will require a site visit. There's no stormwater infrastructure on this site, correct?
When you say stormwater infrastructure, what do you mean? Do you mean like detention ponds and basins and things like that?
Yeah, do we have those?
We don't have any. We have the biggest issue we've had honestly has been in between the sites, really. But there are no basins, there are no ponds, there's no civil features that were done on this project.
Right,
Nothing.
and so then we would not have, and no stormwater permit
No, it's not.
either, right? Okay,
Okay,
so
hold on.
that's-
I just got a couple notes here.
that simplifies some of the closeout. So you will want to review your, permit conditions.
Yep.
To look both at, making sure that all of the construction permit conditions have been met, and then also review the ongoing conditions. And there may be some specific conditions in there relative to filing for the certificate of completion.
Okay.
And then Ava can point you to the correct form to file to start the process for that certificate. But in the meantime, I think there is a possibility that we could go ahead and remove erosion controls along the road in between the two sets of arrays. If there's no longer construction traffic and we're just talking about the regular maintenance that's expected to be ongoing in perpetuity. Am I understanding correctly that that's where we're at?
That is, yes.
Does anybody have any concerns in that case with beginning to dismantle some of those erosion controls?
No. So,
Could I add to that for one, just the one point, in the first array, as you come into the site, there's no work that's been done there, and that site had no, there was no, tree work, nothing was removed there. So there was no, we have full stabilization there as well. So is it possible to maybe leave the silt fence in, that's the, what am I looking at here? That's the back. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the front. Sorry. As you come in, all three of these first areas here, everything up there is completely stabilized and has been the entire time. We have had no issues up there. On the second site, if you move down, as you come into the site, everything with the exception of the small section that's down where you see where the pad is, right just to the left of the cursor right there. That whole array, those first 6 or 7 rows is where we did the work, and everything else, at least from the second half, the larger half of the site is fully stabilized. So the only place we're having would it be possible to pull silt fence except for the area around where we had been doing the work on the other 2 arrays, or there's technically it's 2 arrays, but it looks like 4.
Ava, did you review the entirety of the site for stabilization when you were there?
I have not walked the perimeter of these front arrays,
Okay.
these ones up here. I have walked the perimeter of this back array, and can confirm stabilization, particularly around the backside. But as Pete was mentioning, there's not stabilization yet in this whole front section.
Okay. There was a question about whether the required plantings had been completed at the back of that back array.
Right in the back there, those are so they're doing the seeding this week, and that will be followed. They have the plantings in hand, and that will happen right after the seeding gets put in. So
there's areas still to be seeded back there as well?
no, not there, just the area where we had the disturbance.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. How do other members of the commission feel about releasing larger pieces of erosion controls around the arrays? Do folks want to get out there and do a site visit before we do that? I'm comfortable with the road area because there was no real construction activity or disturbance outside of the path of the road to begin with. But I suspect folks may want to see the array areas before we release those.
I just had a question about, which arrays are near that Maxine circle, because they were concerned about that before you remove the
That's right.
That's back here.
And to my knowledge, we haven't heard anything anymore since that lady made the comment on the call. I believe it was it August or July? I think it was July. It was middle of summer, if I recall correctly. Might even be the beginning of summer, but we haven't had any. We have had no. I've been talking, but before Eva with I can't remember her name. The
Cassie, oh yeah.
Cassie, yes, Cassie. I've been talking to Cassie. They have no complaints. They have no. There's no record of anything from the neighbors complaining at all, except for that conversation on the call that we had. But the area that we do need to put the trees in is on that area, and that's the that you can see where the tree line is right through there.
Do we need the erosion controls to help support the tree plantings?
I would recommend that we leave those in place because there's going to be soil disturbance around the planting.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It does seem logical to leave the erosion controls up at least around this entire back array.
That's fine. We could leave the whole back section. We could just leave that intact as it is right now. But
Front arrays, you said you haven't walked yet.
I have not walked the front
Okay.
arrays.
yeah,
So
and we
it's-
can try to maybe set something up with Eva on that. But the other thing that I did forget to mention was we would like to petition to go to monthly reporting versus the weekly that we're currently in right now.
What are folks' thoughts on that?
There's still exposed areas underneath that one
Under
array.
this, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's continues to be
Yeah, it's not
dry,
even seeded yet.
yeah,
I think it's premature to do that.
we could just focus on the areas that are disturbed for,
For the
Yeah.
monitoring.
yeah. And say, we don't need to see monitoring reports on that cover the entire site, but just the areas that have disturbance that are remaining.
Currently, I will say, reviewing the SWIP reports that have been coming in, like they are reporting on the erosion controls down all along the road.
Mhm.
So as the erosion controls are removed along the road, they will
Right.
no longer need to report on those.
Right. When is the seeding scheduled to occur?
This week.
So let's stick with monthly for the time being and check back in,
You missed-
or I'm sorry, weekly for the time being.
Yeah,
And check
weekly.
once that seed is in and hopefully gets a little rain and has time to establish. In the meantime, if Ava is able to schedule a visit to check out the other areas in the front,
Mhm.
we may be able to release some of those from reporting.
Yep.
Okay.
Wait until we've got good eyes on those. And I would say, is everyone comfortable with eliminating, taking down the erosion controls on the entire section of road between the two clusters of arrays?
Yeah,
Yes.
And what about the front entrance road as well?
Where was photo 10 where that?
Yeah. So photo 10 is in the wetland that is kind of between the two front arrays. Oh yeah, where my cursor is right here.
Yeah.
So the erosion controls are along the road.
You looked at that and there was no sedimentation migration. Do we ever figure out what all those ruts were about, or that was just the owner crossing over and turning around in the mud?
That was my assessment of it.
So Ava, are they driving? Where is that? I thought that drive path was further in between the two clusters, but it's right in the midst of, it's right there.
Yeah, I mean, there's many drive paths, but the one with the erosion is in this first section right here.
Isn't that all fenced?
What happens is there's fence around the perimeter of the field, and what he does is he comes driving in. If you can zoom up a little bit, he's either coming in the road and driving around. From this picture, he's driving around the right-hand side of the rightmost array, or he's coming in further down and driving. He's cutting across from where the laydown area is, where you see up the up on the main road in the middle, there's a road, there's a box with the lines right through it,
Uh-huh.
right in the middle of the road there. He drives back around and he comes back to the main road around the fence below our array and then drives down the road to the second area. And I think they do a lot of hunting in between the two sites. They've got game cameras and tree stands and stuff all over the place in there. So
Okay. But the 3 arrays at the front, those are encompassed by a single security fence, right?
yeah, the whole thing is fenced in, and then there's a gate. The gate is kind of down. It's where it says, yeah, right there is where the gate is, but there's a fence along that road, and it kind of, so he comes around the back side of the array, and it's what's causing some of that, that riffling. I could have, when I have the guys out there, I can try to have them, even though it's technically outside of our limit of work, I could try to have them throw some seed over there.
Okay, but nobody is driving through that. There's no flags on here, but nobody's driving through that skinny wetland that runs between all the arrays, right?
No, not in that side, because there's no, that's completely fenced in up the top.
Okay, good.
Yep.
All right.
That's interesting.
You have the pictures.
Yeah.
What's interesting?
I just want to make sure there's a lot of wetlands going on this site, and there's a lot of different spots where there were roads coming in.
Yeah, I thought that your picture 10 is down by your letter A, I think. If
I think-
squinting
yes.
looking at these.
I think it's actually right about where CX04 is. I think it's down, there's a hill right there, and it's on that side of the hill. It's outside of our fence area, because he drives around our fence and comes right down through there.
Yes, okay. I apologize, Commission. I may have made a mistake and investigated the wrong wetland here.
Okay, all right, so we still need to take a
Well-
look at,
Well, actually, no, I think, so here, I can show the images. I definitely went at the right location, but I think I marked on the plan the
Okay.
wrong wetland. Does
Okay.
that make sense? So I went into this wetland,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
marked this one,
gotcha.
Yeah.
but the
That's the risk.
evidence of the erosion is pretty evident, so
Yeah.
you know where you are.
Yeah. That makes
So-
sense, yeah.
Yeah, that hill inside the array, it's actually still a pretty big hill. There was a big pile of it looks like a big dirt pile that was there, and that's never really been touched. So that it's around where you see the fence line kind of goes between XO2 and XO4. That's where that is coming in.
Okay,
And that looks like
So this is the mode path that it's not
Oh.
properly marked on the plan, but this is kind of looking down into the wetland.
mm-hmm.
He has
Yeah.
a game camera right here, but this is it, like here in the wetland.
Is there evidence that they're traveling through the wetland?
Well, to look at their game camera perhaps, but it's on the edge, not by car.
Great. Okay.
yeah, it's right on the side of the road. He has it right on the road when you come between the two arrays.
Okay.
And by road, Pete is referring to a mode path here.
Yep.
Not a road as part of the jurisdiction.
But the mowing all appears to be outside of flagged areas.
Yes, well, nothing is flagged anymore.
Okay,
Nothing is mowed in this area here. This isn't ours. She's talking about where the A is right there. This is outside of our fence, and this is where our fence is behind us right now. And we're heading, if you go toward A, that goes back to the site that's in the back where we're currently doing the work. And he comes driving down right off this hill right here and goes back onto the road.
okay.
And he runs over the silt fence every time.
Yep, we gathered that from the earlier pictures.
Mhm.
So, back to what we're comfortable removing. Between the two arrays, from fence to fence, comfortable taking out that silt fence so that at least it's not being perpetually driven over and presenting the need for you to put it back up every time to be in compliance.
So thank you for that.
What about the silt fence along the entry road to the first array? Did you take a look at that one?
Yeah, it appears to be stabilized all
Okay.
along there.
Are folks comfortable with that coming out as well?
I think so.
All right. So we're fine with taking out everything, basically everything that's outside of
The array.
outside of the fencing for the arrays, and what's around the arrays, we want to keep in place until we get better eyes on it.
Yep, that's fine. And I can set up a walk with Eva for the front, and we can go through the front there and review that as whenever she has time.
Okay, that sounds good.
That sounds good, Pete. We'll be in contact.
Okay, and then I'll be in touch with you about the NOT, and we'll go from there.
Excellent.
Great, thank you all.
For your reference, Pete, there's no such thing under the Wetlands Protection Act as a notice of termination. It's COC for certificate of completion. Don't know if you heard me, but
But hopefully, I'll get it straight with him.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll
No,
walk
I'm
through it.
sorry, I did. I just muted myself. I did have one question. You said that there was something that we don't need to do if there's no storm basins or anything. What was that you were talking about?
it won't be referenced in your permit because you don't have them. We were just talking through for ourselves what needed to happen.
Okay, so the COC, the notice of termination, when does the notice of termination happen then? Is that something totally different?
So
I don't know what a notice of termination is. That is not related to Wetlands Protection Act.
EPA stormwater.
Oh, yeah, you may be talking about your EPA SWIP permit.
The SWIP permit, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
That's not our jurisdiction.
Okay,
EPA.
so NOT is SWIP and EPA.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, and then COC is you guys for stormwater or whatever we're calling, what is it?
Wetlands.
for the wetlands.
Wetlands, okay.
I just mentioned you asked him to review his conditions in perpetuity.
Mhm.
Would that include the invasive management?
Yep, it does.
Stormwater and COC. Okay, I think I'm good.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Great,
Pete.
thank you guys.
Other updates?
Yep, other updates. Let me go ahead and mute him. Okay, moving down onto M, the move-in storage on Main Street rear 9 Coleman Road.
Okay.
I have an update on that from the Southampton Conservation Agent, George Russell. He has issued a stop work order for this project under his commission, stating that the project has not been diligently pursued. So I spoke with George.
That's a unique approach. Okay. Go
I spoke
on.
with George. He asked me if there had been any pursual of this project through Easthampton's Conservation Commission. As far as I could tell, based on Cassie's records, there had not been anything since the OOC was issued. But it doesn't expire for some time until May of 2025. And this is the approach George Russell is taking.
They haven't completed their pre-construction,
Correct.
right? So there's no work has started to be stopped. Yeah, and he can do whatever he wants to do in Southampton, but I don't see any reason for us to follow suit.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they would need to come to us for pre-construction.
Right, which they have not completed. Yes.
Okay.
I've
Never heard of. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
I filed an RCOC with them. And they were gonna deny it. I was like, what? And they were like, you're missing this little itty bitty piece of information. And I was like, well, you could have just asked me for it, you know? Here it is.
All right.
Okay, moving down to N, the Haas home products, that's 65 Lovefield Street. Greg Haas requested a site visit last week. I visited the site, and he wanted confirmation as to where the conservation area signs will be located.
Okay.
So these are signs, and apparently Cassie had settled on conservation area as the thing to put on the sign. It's marking the section that the restoration section he added like a section of like wetland reconstruction or buffer zone reconstruction.
Was there a required mitigation area?
Yes.
Okay.
And we received one vegetation report from GZA around that I think at my first commission meeting, so in late August,
Mhm.
and the vegetation report was very positive. stating that the vegetation had been coming along well, with the plantings coming along well. And that was what my site visit confirmed. And he's planning on applying for a partial COC this fall, with the full COC will hinge on 2 more of those annual vegetation reports.
Okay.
So 2026, at the end of growing season 2026 will be when that full COC.
Okay.
Okay. Coming down to 80, Tasty Top. So, the mayor would like the commission to re-release the RFP for the role of commission's consultant, changing the need in terms of the experience category for previously the RFP stated the need for a professional wetland scientist certification or 3 years of experience previously it said it was a professional wetland scientist certification and 3 years of experience. And the change requested is for an or, so that it will be in either or. And I have the draft of the RFP. It is everything that you previously reviewed with Casey, except for the and, the or.
Okay. And the goal of this, as I understand it, is to avoid any legal concerns relative to whether the RFP was in keeping with or as it was issued. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay. And the city's legal counsel has weighed in on this, I think.
Yes, the city's legal counsel, Mark Simpson, has weighed in on this. Other conservation agents. There's been a considerable amount of counsel sought to find the best course of action.
Okay.
For this, and that this is what
The RFP does also require that they submit qualifications or a resume for the person proposed, correct?
yes, a list of experiences right here on B.
Okay.
One of the problems that we had, maybe not problems, but one of the things that made it difficult last time was much different scopes that we got back in terms of how much time, the 2 proposals that we got were assuming for, like time in the field specifically for the stream crossing work, like that was one item. Do you think, I don't know, like, it sounds like there's been a lot of discussions had, so I don't want to like upset the apple cart, but if we could define better what we were asking for to get proposals that were more comparable in terms of like, like assume number of days, in the field for that monitoring task. And if there's other things that were vague or where we've got different, like much different assumptions. So the 2 things that stand off the top of my head were like reviewing reports where we got wildly different numbers, and then this item where we got different numbers also. But this is just going off memory, like, and with reviewing the time for reviewing reports, that's kind of like, that's something that we are less able to define because we can't tell them how long they should take to, read a bunch of things. But for this one, we can at least say, like, whatever it is, expect, like, I forget if we talked with the applicant about how long they thought it would take, but like, assume that it's like full-time for 2 weeks or whatever, and then we at least get the same assumption, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Or like, is this far enough down the line that we don't want to like add more to it?
What is your sense, Ava? I certainly don't want us to make any changes knowing that council and others have already reviewed and approved this version before asking their input on that.
I think the commission could recommend specificity. My understanding is that the developer was really focused on the professional wetland scientist certification component of it and was not particularly concerned with the rest of the RFP. And so I think more specificity could be fine and could go back up. I could send it back up through the channels for confirmation.
Why don't you ask for an opinion on that before we start editing?
Okay.
And then if they think that is a good idea, you could build in some assumptions based on where we had landed previously, which I think was 3 weeks for the stream crossing.
Yeah, whatever it was, I don't remember.
And we could just say assume X number of, because in the end, we asked the proponents to, or the respondents to basically make their assumptions better match what we had originally intended and better match each other so we could compare costs.
Right.
So we can always do that again, but it may speed things up to set some basic assumptions.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Forgot about that part, but yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
so
If
we did go back and because basically one of them I think had tried to come in cheaper by just saying, well, we're gonna only assume 3 days here. And I was like, well, but it's actually gonna be 3 weeks. So
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, so I will ask if more specificity about what the commission expects this project to look like is in accordance with the order, with how the council is reviewing the commission's consultant role in the order of conditions.
Is it specifically around the stream crossing?
Specifically around the stream crossing.
That seemed to be the sticking point.
I think that is, yes.
So, don't we need a specific person with certain qualifications for the removal of the stream crossing?
we do, and they're going to have to provide a resume and references for a review regardless. It's worth noting, and I presume that everyone who's been considering this issue, including the applicant, have noted that the party that we selected actually did not have a PWS because we looked at their qualifications and said this is a sufficient equivalent, but this is the item that they have chosen to hang their argument on. And so this is what council has said we need to do.
Okay.
It says be in attendance of and monitor all work associated with the new stream crossing installation and old stream crossing removal.
Right.
It seems not vague at all. Like,
Well, it's entirely vague from the point of how long should you assume that's going to take? We want them to be there the entire time, but they don't know because we don't know whether that's going to be 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 2 days.
right.
And so just for the purpose of comparison, because in reality, it's going to be time and materials and we're going to pay them for however long it takes.
Yeah.
But to be able to compare apples to apples, it may make sense to say, for the purposes of your proposal, assume 3 weeks.
Tasty Tap's question, one of them was that they were concerned, why would we have wetland scientists there when they're pouring concrete? And you did explain all removal and all construction, we have to have someone there.
Mhm.
So this will cover that, whatever that we're proposing? Okay.
It does, because of this requirement for experience and the depth of the resume that the commission will be using. Which I think is, if the commission's ready to go there, the other piece that the mayor requested is that the commission use a formal scoring rubric in evaluating proposals. I requested the procurement officer to draft one.
Mhm.
This is what the procurement officer drafted. The commission does not need to decide on this now. But that each of the proposals that the commission receives be scored according to a rubric, essentially.
Mhm.
And that the proposal that receives the highest score is the one selected.
That's in the ongoing projects.
I have not just received it here. Let me
Oh,
go
okay.
ahead.
And then
I'll give it to you.
does conservation then choose the highest score, or does it go out to someone else?
No, you will select the highest score.
It's just taking the subjectivity out of it. We're asked to score each one and pick the highest score. We assign the scores
Okay.
based on the rubric.
Okay.
And then we don't discuss anymore. We just say 5 versus 4, 5 wins.
So the people that, the companies that had already applied,
We'll have to reapply.
so they can,
Of course,
Yes.
okay.
Maybe we'll
And
get more proposals too, if it's like, you know, like if I'd been looking at the last RFP, I might be like, taking out a bridge and putting in a new one, that might take 10 months. You having someone professional island scientist out there for 10 months? No.
right, so perhaps some specificity
Yeah.
could really be useful in
Yeah.
actually getting more.
Yeah,
It may.
could we get a rumor together in time to put it out with the RFP too? So I think that would be
We certainly could. I mean, this is the rubric
Try to do.
as Mike Owens has written.
Is this something we have access to now?
Yes, yeah, I just added access to it. And Mike Owens is fully open to edits of the commission here. It's not presenting this as a finished product. I did also print it out too.
I mean, it could just be, I just picture like a couple of bullets, you know, like the word will be made, you know, based on combination of price, like 30%.
I don't
You
think
know,
that's gonna fly for what
qualifications.
procurement is
Okay.
asking us to do.
Okay, you mind that?
Are you speaking, Commissioner Buttrick, though, of what should be added to the RFP or?
Oh, I was just envisioning what, you know, what I have seen in RFPs before, which is more basic, a lot more basic than this, but if we're being asked to do something that's kind of involved, then we should do it. But it would be nice to be able to issue it with the RFP so that it's like all, you know, all out there, like a, you know, basis of award, basically, you know.
So we can get your feedback on this.
That would be great. And I'll wait to reissue the RFP until we have a scoring guidance that is in alignment with what the commission is looking for.
And then you're gonna ask
And then-
council about adding a time to that.
And the only specificity that council should advise on is whether or not to specify that the
Timeline.
Conservation Commission expects a 3-week.
I think also the number of reports,
Okay.
just because, yeah, originally one assumed like 12 reports and one assumed 60, and the latter is far more in line with what we anticipate. I'm making those numbers up. I don't think it was actually 60. But if you go and check where we landed on the one we were ready to act on.
Yep.
That could be the assumption that we just ask everyone to assume that number.
Yep.
For the purposes of budgeting.
Mhm.
Yep.
I think those are the only two things that would benefit from numeric quantification.
The other thing that the mayor requested is that when the proposals are received and the commission is actually reviewing them, is the commission comfortable with the procurement officer being present? Yep. For that scoring practice?
So he would attend.
He would be, yeah, for sure.
No doubt we should do this for the other RFP that we're talking about issuing too, right?
No. I don't think so. It's under $10,000 and nobody's throwing fits about it. I don't think there's any need. I mean, you can ask Mike Owens, but I don't think this needs to become standard practice across the board. I think it's the size of the,
Yep, I think that's my understanding. It's just the size of this and just the desire for it to be as streamlined as possible with the concerns of the applicant and the public concerns.
I'm talking about 385.
The peer review.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like if we're issuing 2 RFPs at almost the same time for almost the same thing, that they should have the
so
same.
you ask Mike Owens his
Yeah.
opinion.
Okay.
I don't think it's gonna be needed, but
Okay.
So once we pick a number, he's in agreement, then that's who is? Or-
Yes, we will score them based on the scoring system, which will be defined in advance, and the highest score wins. End of discussion. And someone will be here to observe and make sure that that happens as appropriate, so they can report back to the legal counsel that all was done in good faith.
Okay.
This is a CYA measure.
And actually, what I just said isn't true because they're not the same thing. One's for construction phase and one's
Right.
for, yeah.
And there are pretty dramatically different
Yep.
financial scopes as well.
And the sites are very different.
Well, we've never gone through this for a peer review request before.
And there's no enforcement order.
Great, so I'll await the commission's comments on this. I'll send it in a separate email coming this week.
Please. Can you send it as a Word document so that it's easy to edit and send back to you
Yes.
without editing the file in the thing?
Yeah.
Drive.
Excellent. Does the commission need to vote on changing the RFP? No.
Will there be public comment on this? Or can there be public comment on this?
On the rubric, on the RFP?
On this whole process?
On the
I mean,
agenda.
you're welcome to.
That's
like,
what I'm asking. I didn't want to
right
disrupt
now,
if you
yes.
guys were still discussing.
I didn't know if you were saying you wanted to review the documents or you
No.
just have something to say. Please.
No. I'm a little confused and I find it a little inappropriate that the mayor is taking such a heavy hand in this process and undermining what appears to be, from the citizens' perspective, undermining the Conservation Commission. And I don't need any comment from you guys. I just think that it's concerning that she is dealing so softly with this developer and taking more concern for his needs and wants than she is for the environment that you all are protecting. It's really what I wanted to comment on.
I can assure you that we have no intention as a commission in letting up on the environmental protections associated with this. I'm not concerned about the one word change to the RFP.
No.
My understanding is that the city is wanting to avoid a lawsuit. And so we're just being asked to beef up the procedural elements to make sure that all of the i's are dotted and all of the t's are crossed.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting outcome. It's continuing to present the developer as a bully. And it's unfortunate that you guys got caught in the crossfire. I am impressed actually with the Conservation Commission's interactions with him, because I thought it was impressive. That's it. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, we're not procurement experts, and so we, we do want to make sure that if there's a question raised that, everything be fair and open and all that sort of stuff. So
My understanding too is there was a solid amount of precedent looked into that indicated a professional wetland scientist as a requirement for this kind of project be beyond historical precedent for this kind of consultant.
It's interesting that it delays for construction more than anything.
One might argue that they are shooting their own project in the foot, but that is their choice.
That is all I have for open projects, active projects.
Okay.
Move down to general business.
Yep.
There are minutes on the table from the last meeting. Commissioner August kindly sent comments. I incorporated those comments into the version that is on the table.
Are folks ready to vote to accept the minutes?
Yes.
We have a motion.
I'll move that we accept the minutes of the August 26th meeting.
9/9. 9/9. Not August.
It's August 26th on here. The minutes on the table are in fact 9/9.
I apologize.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Oh,
I'm a slave to my reading glasses.
Would you like to revise your motion? Commissioner Weeks?
Minutes of September 9th.
Second.
All those in favor, Patrick, August,
Aye.
Weeks,
I,
Carr,
I,
motion carries. Wetlands ordinance.
Just today, I have made my way through the comments from Commissioner Musa and Commissioner August and have integrated most of those comments, the ones that were easy to integrate, with some of those comments being larger discussions. And we are in the process of scheduling our next working group session.
Great. And so in essence, Ava's gotten up to speed. We're going to meet to discuss next steps. I think we're close to having a draft to bring everyone. I know I've been saying that for some time, but I think we genuinely are. So that is our intent once we get a meeting going and clear up what's left to be done. Hopefully you will in fact be seeing that before the end of the year, I would like to say. That still gives us some wiggle room, right?
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate the commission's patience as I've gotten up to speed with this as well.
Patience. I mean,
You have no idea how long we have
been
been working on
been working this for
this.
17
All right.
Okay, and then I have a series of updates on some smaller, a variety of other wetlands issues around the city. The first one is that the DPW is, just so that the commission is aware, is clearing out the Ferry Street Dam spillway. This falls under the bundled NOI. Cassie wrote a memo in 2022 specifically stating that this project falls under the bundled NOI and that they will do this periodically.
Yep.
But if you see that happening, that's what's going on.
Great.
Similarly, in the similar vein, the bridge project at Williston finished. The reconstruction that Commissioner Buttrick brought up last
The Green
meeting.
Bridge, right?
This is a pedestrian bridge, yep. And I conducted a site visit last week. It looks stabilized. They did it over 3 days. They're leaving the silt fencing in until sod is reestablished, until vegetation is reestablished. I think they're gonna call me in a few weeks because they want the silt fencing gone before Parents Weekend, of course. And the trenches at Harnett Manhan Memorial Forest brought to us by public comment. I went out to the site and have images to show the trenches are indeed there. When I went out to the site, there was signs put out by the Forestry Trust indicating that no more digging can occur in that area. So I just thought the commission might want to have eyes on it, but I don't see further action due to the signs.
Which sign is that? Because there's another new sign that came out, because I believe that sign was there already and they continued. That particular sign has been there for about 6 months and they continued digging up the hill.
And there was considerable, I would say I probably saw 5 or 6 signs posted on trees. I don't know when those signs were posted.
Those all have been there for months and they continued digging. Now, what was out there today, I think, was a sign that said there will be no more rock mining in there at all.
This is a more recent update. I was out on the site last week.
Someone sent me a picture of it today.
Okay.
So they're saying absolutely no more rock.
And remind me who manages this?
the Forestry Foundation.
That's correct.
Yes.
Have we been in contact with them directly?
I have not reached out to them.
Okay. It seems like it would be worth reaching out to them to basically say, you know, we've been alerted to what's going on the site. We know that you have signs out, and just ask them how they're planning to enforce that new rule. Yep.
Some serious digging out there.
Yeah, I haven't been out there in few years, but that is way more intense than what I remember.
Yeah.
Yes, there were some trees that are starting to fall off the slope because of it. And I stood in one of the pits and it came up to my waist, 5'8". So
Yeah.
Is that happening by hand or that seems like a lot?
they're doing it by hand, but they're also intentionally making trenches so that rain washes the dirt down. I mean, that's what they said to my husband and I. Well, this is what we're doing, so we don't have to do as much digging.
As far as is the caution tape, has the caution tape also been there for multiple years?
There was caution tape, that's been there and taken down and put back up again. And I do believe that some of the diggers put up some caution tape.
Probably to keep people out of their claimed spots.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So what an interesting little world that we are not part of.
Damage on the other side of the river is even more extensive. But it sounds like they're going to stop digging on the whole property.
I mean, like,
It's unfortunate that it's come to this.
Yeah,
It
it's
was an
ruined this
interesting
for
thing, yeah.
everybody,
So I'll reach out to New England Forestry and ask them how they're planning on enforcing new rules that they're planning on, that
Yeah.
they've set out.
Yeah, let them know that we're tracking it as potential violation and we know that they're trying, but we're curious to know what else they have planned, basically.
Yeah.
How they're gonna make this actually stick.
Okay, the last agent update I have for you is the excavator by the pond on the 1/3 Mountain Road, Mountain Street. So I did go take a look. Knocked on a door. So this is what Commissioner Busa saw from the other side. So what my conversation at the door with the property owner is that this is an irrigation pond that was dug for agricultural purposes or I guess I actually don't know if it was originally, it has been utilized as an irrigation pond over the course of his time owning the property, which my memory is he said it was over 60 years he's owned the property. From our conversation, it was unclear what kind of agricultural activity him or his family is still engaging with, but that he stated that every couple of years he dredges the pond. And he stated that that was to control the vegetation growth on the pond.
I think what we've done before in situations like this is to request receipts of sale to prove agricultural activity on the property, right? Does anybody remember that? And I say anybody because you're the only one here today who I think may.
On the field south of what's now River Valley Co-op. We went through that whole thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Did we permit new residents that with a driveway that went by here much more recently and find that this was non-jurisdictional or something like that?
Not to my memory.
We did look at, is there a second residence on that property, like the driveway?
Why
Something.
would it
It was
have
like a
been
driveway.
jurisdictional though?
Just going off my memory here.
Do you have a memory of what that
They're fallible.
address would be?
I don't know when.
I mean, I will say this pond shows up on Mass Mapper as a pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a pond doesn't have to have. The pond has to have a hydrologic connection to be jurisdictional, does it? You don't have the regs in here, do you?
I don't. I can go grab it though. Would you like me to?
I can look on here.
Yeah. Feel like we got an application and we were like, I don't know. And then it was withdrawn because it was
Yep.
like it's not jurisdictional or something.
Okay, I have, a notice of intent for 3 Mountain Road. Is
Yeah.
this? Okay, I haven't looked at learning this with the commission right now. So, yeah, this is 2021.
Is it for a drive?
Huh, I don't remember this at all.
This is the pond in question though, down
Yeah.
here. Here is the proposal.
Did we issue a permit?
No,
So,
so let me go ahead and look. It was withdrawn.
he's better than
Yeah, impressive.
one specific case.
I have zero memory of this. I don't know where I was for this. What's that, please? Thank you for clarifying. This is good news. What's that?
This is where the end.
Oh, no. I need to know what was clarified.
Yep, let me go ahead and see DEP comments perhaps. Noted as being exempt,
Driveway work and safety.
plans failed to establish jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Oh, yeah, what's that next sentence? Aerial photos do show a small farm pond with possible BBW touching bank, but the NOI does not categorically state there are wetlands located around the pond or touching the intermittent stream that enters the pond, which is required to establish jurisdiction. Huh.
This is assuming that the pond, I think, is a farm pond. Right?
If it is a farm pond, that's land, well, and it's being used as land and active agriculture.
Then it's exempt.
Then it's
Yeah.
Right.
completely-
Based on my preliminary conversation with the property owner at the door, who I will admit, like, it was a kind of a rushed conversation. He was not particularly interested in speaking with me. The sense I got was that he had not. I would be surprised if he has agricultural use receipts from the last 5 years. But this land is very much historically agricultural.
Which doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah, it is. I remember.
Would you reach out to Mark Stinson on this and direct him back, like send him back this document and say it's the same pond and ask if he can help us clarify whether we should be concerned that he's dredging this? Because I'm not fully understanding his comment. I'm sure this is Mark Stinson, right? Is that who signed this? Or does it even have a signature on it?
It's Holly K.
He might not have been there after.
Oh, in
Okay.
2021?
I think this was the brief period where Mark Stinson was
Right.
not.
Oh, she's the.
Well, he'll still have an opinion, so.
Okay,
I
Assuming he says.
know that that excavator has been there and the pond has been dredged at periods for time immemorial.
Yeah, the
And then,
excavator's always sitting there, but it's usually further back.
Oh.
So what caught my eye was that it was like right next to the pond. Oh God,
And
what is
he's-
he doing?
yeah, he spoke about dredging it. I would say at the conversation I had with him at the door, he spoke about dredging it every couple of years
Yeah.
to control vegetation growth on the pond.
and so, I mean, I guess I assumed that it is a continuing activity, and if he does a good enough job dredging it, then it never gets any BBW around it. and then
Can
it
you go
continues
back to
be
the, yeah, can you go back to the plans?
Yeah.
non-jurisdictional.
Plan set.
Is there a wetland resource page on here at all? Existing commissions today?
No, this one.
What does that say?
Says area of disturbance in wetland buffer.
But on the pond, does it say wetland pond?
Does say wetland pond.
What?
I think it was for a construction of a new property. I think this red property is not there. Or wasn't there. I'm not actually sure if it is currently there.
Yeah, I would say reach out to Mark Stinson. Let's try
Okay.
to understand jurisdiction. Standalone ponds are funny. But like that pond on,
Dodge's residence,
Yeah.
yeah.
that pond counted as a pond. And is there anything flowing into it? Something flows out of it, but the pond is the origin, right?
I always decided it didn't count as a pond because of the outlet.
Yeah, it definitely counted as a pond, because they failed to count the land underwater and you have to make them retally it.
I don't know.
Yeah, let's get Mark's.
I mean, this is one thing that I feel kind of strongly about, that if somebody builds and maintains a pond, like as part of their landscape, and there's not otherwise a resource area, they should be allowed to do it, maintain it, and keep that activity going, like this probably isn't a natural pond, probably constructed. They've probably been doing this activity for, however long. So I don't feel like we should come in and say, we're deciding this is a wetland now that we regulate. But I'm also a dam engineer, so like it drives me crazy when the dam owner's like, I need to fix my dam or whatever.
Well, and another
And
thing
then
that might
everybody
come
makes
into
it very
play,
hard.
Wetlands Protection Act dates from 1972. Your brief in the door conversation suggested that he had been owning this back 60+ years, which
Yes,
presumably counting back,
right.
says this pond predates the wetland reservation.
Okay, hang on.
Yep.
Here we go. Definition of pond. Inland. Any open body of fresh water with a surface area observed or recorded within the last 10 years of at least 10,000 square feet. We certainly don't meet that. I don't think. That would be a quarter acre. I don't think that pond's that big.
No.
Ponds may be either naturally occurring or human-made by impoundment, excavation, or otherwise, shall contain standing water except for periods of established drought. Notwithstanding the above, the following human-made bodies of open water shall not be considered ponds, basins, or lagoons, which are part of wastewater treatment plants. That doesn't apply. Swimming pools or other impervious human-made basins. There's no liner in this that we know of, is there?
Did not see one.
And individual gravel pits or quarries excavated from upland areas and less inactive for 5 or more years. So you could run a quick calculation, but I don't think they're going to meet the 10,000 square foot. So that may be all that matters if there's not a stream running into and out of it,
Which the comments from DEP indicate that there's not.
right. So it may be that it's easily non-jurisdictional, but let's do our due diligence and make sure.
Okay.
So the thing
Calculate
that
the
makes
square
the
feet.
Dodge Street, the Dodge property is that it has a stream running out of it.
Well, and it clearly was surrounded by BBW, which is definitely jurisdictional. I don't think there's any BBW around this one. It's sharp sides and
And grass.
yeah.
I'll calculate the square feet of the pond and reach out to Mark Stinson, or I guess if it's under 10,000 feet, we can close it there.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if it's over 10,000 feet, I will reach out to Mark.
There is there's nothing running into it, right?
The DEP comments mention
Yeah, what did it
an
say?
intermittent stream. Let me pull them back up.
It's feeding it then.
It does look like something down into it, but I don't know that anything. Do show small farm, but also BBW touching the bank. And when it's not capitalized, there are wetlands. Oh, I know. One second. Not yet.
Hungry.
You know, Ava, if he had already dredged the pond.
No, he hadn't done it yet this time.
I still am not clear on the pond's jurisdiction because what they're saying about the BVW being required to establish jurisdiction is that you need bank, freshwater, wetland, or any number of coastal things bordering on any river, stream, or pond to trip letter A of the jurisdiction under 10.021. But then letter B is land under any of the water bodies listed above. So I would still think that the land underwater. I think it's worth reaching out just for our future knowledge,
Okay.
if not for this case, to better understand that jurisdictional comment.
Yep.
And maybe it still doesn't matter because the pond is too small.
Right. Okay. But if the pond was just too small, wouldn't that likely be referenced in these DEP comments?
Maybe, yeah, not.
Those DEP comments, like, they seem to be saying, well, the applicant has not said there's jurisdiction, so there's not, which is like the opposite of us.
Right.
Kind of.
So it's also,
It's weird, you know?
yeah, it's a very strange comment to begin with. Do they mean the plans indicate that there's no jurisdiction? Or do they mean the applicant hasn't shown the jurisdiction and they need to?
Right.
Like you could kind of read that first sentence two completely different ways.
True. Okay. I'll calculate the square feet and I'll check in with Mark
Okay.
about this comment and whether or not this is a jurisdictional pond and
And would just ask him to clarify generally
the jurisdictions around
what defines a pond as being jurisdictional or not. Because I feel like that's always a gray area.
Yeah.
Streams we know in and out, but ponds are funny, especially when they're dug by excavators 60 years ago in your backyard.
Great.
And when they're not great ponds. Just pretty good.
Pretty good ponds, mediocre ponds, pretty good ponds, but not great ponds.
That is all I have for you
All right.
All right.
for agent updates.
I think we're happy about that. Because I completely failed to wrap this meeting up in 2 hours.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you, Commissioner August. We do have a forest cutting plan.
Oh dear. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Dan. What, well, it's for the town of East Space Hampton, so I don't think this applies to us. This must be in New York or Connecticut.
Is unfortunately on Park Hill Road.
All right, what do we need to know? It's just an FYI.
Yep, it's just an FYI.
Where on Forest or Park Hill Road?
It's 108. Is that right? Is that what it says?
Yeah. I'll pull it up. Is that near our property or anything?
Farm, I think that's up past,
Yeah, it's
in the north.
close to the
Yeah.
it's close to the Northampton line here. It's right here. This property right here. This is the address given, but I imagine it's back here.
What?
Yeah, that stream and pond, I think, are in the middle of the area.
Yeah.
Featured. And where, just for reference sake, where is Park Hill Orchard and our properties? Oh, there's Echo Dale. Okay.
Oh, geez.
That's Echo Dale. Park Hill is. So close to all of that.
Yeah, this is Park Hill right here. These series of buildings.
So
and
it's
their
the
apple
next,
orchards.
it's the next property.
Yeah. So then on the Northampton side.
Okay.
So it's back here.
Where's the municipal boundary?
What's more visible?
Town line, as it were. Or are they towns?
Right
Oh,
there.
it's right there. It's like the north edge of this.
Okay. Do you see anything? that you want to comment?
Just realizing the Oliver Street brush dump is right on the line with Northampton.
Did that on purpose.
It's just learn something every day.
So if this is forest cutting, do we,
We don't have jurisdiction. We can give comments, but that's.
Let's see it again.
with the drawn map on there, do we need more details? Like that other one that we were presented, it was removed from the,
I would say this is pretty typical of what we
Yeah.
usually receive.
is that a pond? What is that in the center?
It appears to be.
And then were they cutting around the pump?
We don't have jurisdiction.
Okay.
Leaving a filter strip around the stream. That will be between the skid trails and the pond and wetlands. Proposing no crossings.
Do we know who the forest?
Roberts Brothers Lumber. Duly noted.
Okay, great. Thank you for the reminder, Commissioner August. That's all I have for you.
All right.
Cool.
Further business? Anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Fletcher?
Aye.
August?
Okay.
Weeks?
Aye.
Star?
Aye.
Motion carries. It is 8:46. We are concluding tonight's meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission, and our next meeting will be
October 7th.
October 7th at 6 p.m.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.